Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. I wonder if the mic caught my funny voice crack, my voice noise, before I started the introduction. Matt, sometimes when I listen back to these episodes, when I'm, out and about walking our dog, maybe commuting somewhere, I think, wow, I make a lot of funny mouth noises, and I hope that's not off-putting to all our friends that are listening out there. Shout out to all our friends. Matt, I come to you to the Mistake Zone this week, once again in the Saturday Morning Arcade Clubhouse, back in person. But speaking about being in person, Matt, I feel like this year it has been a year of the Beefy Boy movie, Matt. Just because I'm thinking back to a lot of the films I've watched in theaters this year. And this include, Oppenheimer. We had Anatomy of the Fall or something. Matt, I don't actually know the movies that I'm watching. Killers of the Flower Moon.
By Beefy Boy movies, do you mean long movies?
Yes.
Okay,
long
I thought you
movies.
meant like Vin Diesel.
Movies. No, those are Beefy Men movies, Matt.
Oh, okay.
I think those are Beefy Men movies, but in terms of length, I'm talking about 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours, close to 4-hour movies this year. And it got me thinking, after I've seen all these Beefy Boy movies, where at that length, I think anything that's coming close to the 3-hour mark, I realized that if I didn't watch these films in theaters this year, I probably wouldn't have fully consumed them, one, ever, but two, if I were to watch them in a home setting, with streaming, I wouldn't have been 100% engaged, because I hate to admit it, Matt, but given our short attention spans through all our social media apps, from TikToks to YouTube videos and whatnot, where if I were to watch Oppenheimer at home, I'm probably not paying attention to Oppenheimer 100%, just because I think it's the mental gymnastics of, this is a 3.5 hour movie, 3-hour movie. I need to have my phone on me. I need to have my Steam Deck on me. I need to listen to this movie in the background, just because I'm too comfortable at home to fully commit to a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Where, I hate to say it, Matt, but these were really cinematic experiences, but at the same time, they're not necessarily in my wheelhouse, where I hate to admit it, Matt, but before going to Oppenheimer, Killers, The Fall, I had to mentally prepare myself to consume these movies, just because, okay, I'm about to spend 1/6 of my day. I need to bring all my snacks. I need to make sure I'm sneaking in plenty of drinks. But I come to you to start off the Mistake Zone, Matt, with, when you consume a movie at home, Matt, do you usually give it 100% of your attention now in 2023? Or does any movie you watch kind of become background noise to a secondary task?
For me, it really depends on what I'm watching. Because, Jaren, if it's a movie that like someone told me to watch, or someone said it's interesting, that I originally didn't have much passing interest in,
right,
I kind of do watch it the way that you are kind of saying that you watch it, where it's on my second monitor and I'm listening to it more like a podcast than I am watching a movie. But if it's something that I was interested in, like, for example, the one that's like jumping out to me right now is Across the Spider-Verse.
Right.
That I watched through streaming. And that was a main monitor movie for me to watch. Like, I think I need to be like really invested in whatever it is to main monitor watch it.
Okay.
But
Fair enough.
Jaren, I also consume media like an idiot.
Really?
Jaren, I'm one of those people who look something up on Wikipedia to see what the whole plot line is, so I can see like the whole plot for this movie to see if it's, worth watching. I'll go on YouTube and be like, oh, I've essentially watched, I don't know, a third of this movie, like the main plot point of this movie through YouTube clips. Maybe I should go through the whole movie and see what else is in there type person. And Jaren, I'm also a person who does not care about cinematography.
Oh, okay. You don't care if the Promised Neverland people did it.
Jaren, it's a bonus if the Promised Neverland people did it, but it's not necessary for the Promised Neverland people to do it. Like, Jaren, for me personally, manga is my favorite form. Manga or comics, I guess, is my favorite form of consuming media.
Right.
Because I feel like it's the fastest way to absorb a piece of media.
Yeah. Okay, I see where you're coming. I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. The only other thing that I think rivals it is script form writing. Where, if you're doing like normal writing, you have to establish, like, you have to paint word pictures of the setting, and you have to, describe what everybody's doing. Whereas in manga, you can draw. Jaren, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Point taken.
And you only have to read the speech bubbles. The speech bubbles are usually, the shortest text that you're going to come across. And then in movies, sure, you have the pictures, but you have to, deal with people making movies for movie snobs, where you have to have, establishing shots. And, we have to zoom in on this character really slowly. Jaren, that stuff is wasted on me. It's pearls before swine, Jaren,
Okay.
for me, where I'm just there to suck up the plot. And if an establishing shot is on my screen for more than 3 seconds, I start fast forwarding.
So what you're saying is you're there for the articles, Matt. You're there for the text. And no, that's fair, Matt. To your point of going through a Wikipedia or even like an IMDb plot summary, I found myself doing that for a few, not necessarily movies I'm about to watch, or if my partner wants to go see a movie and it's something I've never heard about, which, let's be honest, Matt, is most of the movies like we end up going to. I'll give a quick plot summary to go through, but say it's something we come across on streaming. If the film or the show or whatever we're consuming hasn't really got me engaged within the first couple of minutes, I'm usually going through the Wikipedia plot summary. I think the most recent example of that was when my sister and I were watching through the new Goosebumps show. And Matt, that's not the Goosebumps we grew up with. Have you heard anything about the new Goosebumps?
I heard it was okay, but it's like very meant for we're millennials. What's the one after us? Gen Z?
Yeah. It's essentially what if Goosebumps was a CW show and it wasn't one shots, but one season that covers a group of zany children who aren't actually zany or children. But it's a lot of stretches, Matt, especially when you're incorporating, here's the cuckoo clock, here's Slappy the dummy, here's Say Cheese and Die, and you're literally having each kid or each teen go through each of the different stories specifically, but that's neither here or there. But I just went on a tangent. But yeah, my sister and I were watching Goosebumps, and it was one of those things where, okay, I'll just have this in the background. I'm going to read, as I'm watching an episode, I'm going to read what's happening on the episode just so I know how much should I pay attention to what's in front of me right now in kind of that sick and twisted way. But speaking about summaries, Matt, one of my favorite segments of the Mistake Zone these days, Matt.
Okay.
What's on my TikTok algorithm? Which is, I don't have the account right now. Maybe I'll link it in the show post once again. But I'm getting this one girl whose TikTok is essentially, hey, I'm going to spoil or go through this horror movie you probably haven't heard about.
I see.
And so you don't have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And since I started watching that, I've been getting other TikTokers who do the same thing.
Uh-huh.
I've been getting, hey, here's me going through this indie game so you don't have to play it, which I kind of just skip through because that maybe I'll play that indie game one of these days.
Uh-huh.
But it's kind of wild seeing, oh, here's, I don't know, Lamb from like 2023, or here's The Farm from 2022. Like all these C, D grade or C and D tier horror movies that are just like, I don't know, man. That's how I want to consume now, is before bed watching this girl describe movies on TikTok for me.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking about things I love regurgitating here on the Mistake Zone, Matt,
Uh-huh.
my partner and I went to Indigo today because there was a Indigo sale,
Okay.
and I bought some stuff, Matt.
Oh, Jaren.
I had to beat up Wallet Coon today, unfortunately.
Jaren, what's the damage?
So, oddly enough, we ran across our pal Mikey and his partner at the Indigo, and they ended up, tagging along with our purchase just so they can get the discount as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, when you go to a store that has a heavily discount, do you prefer to get the regular price first and then the sale price, or do you just want the sale price?
Wait, what do you mean the regular price first and then the
So
sale price?
We went to our cashier. He scans all our items. Quirky cashier. Matt, we had some fun interactions with him.
Okay.
He told us the total first, but then he was like, so your total is this, but I'm applying the discount. Here's the final sale price or whatever.
Oh, Jaren, I think I don't care that much about the original price.
Yeah.
I just, want to get the interaction over with as quick as I can.
But for the sake of our, the mistake zone,
Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
when our cashier was scanning, he came across, he got all my partner's books 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's like, oh, this book, it's going to be made into a film soon. And then my partner, they ended up talking about Killers of Flower Moon again.
Uh-huh.
And so he's scanning all these books. Matt, he's scanning all these big kid books.
Uh-huh.
And then he gets to my pile.
Nice.
And he's like, oh, who's reading my Dress Up Darling? And then I was like, can you guess?
Oh, man.
And then, so that was volumes 9 and 10, because I don't have that in my collection, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, cool, Junji Ito, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Had to buy the Twisted Visions art book because I opened it up, saw this big picture of Tomy, and I thought, gotta buy it. Gotta buy it, Matt.
Gotta buy it.
And my partner ended up also getting one of the, the new Pokemon 151 Pokemon card series.
Mm-hmm.
One of the boxes for that as well, since these still had it in store.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had some vinyl records, and then Mikey and his partner also include some stuff there. So, Wallet took a hit today, Matt, but some presents were there for Christmas season coming up. And that's why I wanted to come to you to the Mistake Zone this week, Matt, just because with the sale in question, I know I'm not going to actually tell the sale just because it doesn't really apply to our friends right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's 30% plus an extra 10% off afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That mostly applies to everything in store, including board games, Matt.
Ah, I see.
And with the holidays coming up, I feel like board games are usually a pretty safe bet to gift to someone, especially if that's,
Oh, really?
just something to have. I think to me, it seems like a good general gift to give, depending on the person, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one that I've been hearing a lot about recently, Matt, that you being the resident board game aficionado, enthusiast, I wanted to get, your thoughts on and see, one, is it worth regular price? No, is it worth big box store price, Amazon price, and sale price, essentially? And Matt, the board game in question is Wingspan. It's something I've been hearing about a lot, and I saw the big beefy box in store. Matt, is it a big beefy box, or how would you describe the box of Wingspan?
Well, is it like the normal board game sized box? Are you talking about the kind of collector sized box that has all the expansions with it?
No, I think just the regular sized box. Is there a bigger box?
There is a bigger box that's kind of like almost two board game boxes stacked on top of each other.
Oh, no,
high.
it's not that. I didn't see that. So I saw the regular one.
Mhm, mhm.
So there's a beefier boy box.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fair enough. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who has heard a lot of good things about Wingspan, but doesn't
Yes.
necessarily know what the game is, could you break down what Wingspan is and your experiences with it so far?
Wingspan is a point collecting game.
Okay.
I honestly think it's like kind of correct to call it a. I think like the term that they use within like the board game genre is point salad game,
Okay.
which is a game where you're gathering points from multiple sources instead of like, for example, everybody's kind of do like the same one thing to see who can do it the best. In Wingspan, it is also a engine building game. A lot like, I don't know, any kind of like deck building rogue like that's our, to put it into your wheelhouse, Jaren, that kind of idea where you're going to be drafting cards from a shared resource pool with the other players and bringing them into your, what the game calls your habitat. You're either a plains habitat, your marsh habitat, I think it is, or your, I think it's just a grasslands habitat. Certain birds can only exist within certain habitats, and some birds can exist in multiple, and like that sort of thing. And I think like the big draw for Wingspan in and of itself is that it's not a high complexity game.
Okay.
I'd say if you've played something like Catan, it's around the same kind of not difficulty, but like the same kind of complexity
Right.
as a game of Catan. And I also think that, Jaren, a big selling point for Wingspan is that its production value is very, very good. The game itself features, I think, like over like 100 birds on like their art. They're all very well drawn. All the birds, for the most part, have unique powers. There are, and by unique, I kind of mean unique in the way like, hey, there's just one power for this one specific bird, but the next bird over is like, oh, you can, like, for example, like one bird is like, oh, you can trade an egg for a new bird card. And then, like, it's a new unique power where you can trade a bird card for an egg.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's that kind of like
yeah.
unique
Right,
thing
right.
where, there's a lot of similarities, but it's a lot of, just like kind of shuffling around a little bit of variables. But I don't know, I think it's a very fun game, Jaren. The mechanics of it are very interesting too, because like you're drafting from a shared pool and everybody has an open kind of board for you to look at. You can see what everybody's doing, what everybody's aiming for, how everybody's aiming to get their points. And it's very satisfying to get your engine kind of going within that game. And I guess by engine, I guess I should really go into what I mean there, which is that since the birds all have their own powers, you're trying to, like, within the game itself, you take an action by activating a habitat, and any birds in that habitat activate their powers. So each habitat does its own unique thing, but it's really, really satisfying to get birds within a habitat that kind of feed off what that habitat does.
Right.
And then it just, makes it even better. So it's really satisfying to see your board go from something very simple to like it feeding you almost 3 times the amount of resources that it was feeding you at the start. And just, that satisfaction of being like, hey, I'm going to do this again, and just watch all your resources grow, watch your points grow is really, really satisfying.
Okay. Matt, selling me on this game, from production value to kind of systems. And I know a lot of people have said, when I say a lot of people, just when I've heard this game discussed on podcasts, there's an element of, hey, sometimes when my group of friends play, we play with like bird sounds in the background, just for total immersion. But Matt, you sold me on the game, but now let's talk about price point.
Yes.
Just because I think regular price in the big box stores I've seen is around 79.99 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get it on Amazon.ca right now for 65 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And for this Indigo sale, if I were to pick it up tomorrow, I think that comes to around $51.
Mm-hmm.
Where, if you were to recommend this game to someone, what do you think a good price point would be? Because of course you would go to the sale, but what
Yeah.
would be the most you would recommend paying for Wingspan?
I think that right now, the Amazon price you said was like 69,
65.
65 is probably the price point that I would suggest most people, like that should be your high end price
Okay.
point. I'm iffy on the, what was the other price? 70?
Yeah, 79.
79. Just because,
That's
well,
like $90 after tax, Matt.
while Wingspan I think is a good game, it is kind of the, how do I say this? It's kind of not old, but it's been iterated on.
Oh, okay.
Like Wingspan is like, I think, a very solid engine builder game. But I think that now the go-to game for that genre is a game called Earth.
Oh,
which
okay.
is slightly more complicated, and the production value is a little bit lower than Wingspan.
Really?
The game itself focuses on kind of plants instead of birds, but it does have the same kind of mechanics where, hey, we're going to activate this power, it's going to trigger your engine to do all of its stuff, and everybody's like, kind of drafting from the same set of like cards that you can pull from, which is why I think that the 79 is where I'd be iffy.
Okay.
Just because there is something in the space right now that can almost stand up to Wingspan.
Right. Okay, Matt. I didn't see Earth. Wait, maybe I saw Earth. I don't know. There's a bunch of big boy boxes around Wingspan, but Wingspan is the one I've been hearing about as of late. And thank you for the breakdown, Matt. Matt, you said it's an engine game. There are some strats, Matt. Before we sign off from Wingspan, what's one hot tip you want to leave our friends with?
Oh, in Wingspan, go for the Ravens. The Ravens they all kind of share the same power type.
Okay.
Which is converting any food to one of the other resource types, which is a very, very crazy power. If you put it in the habitat, that generates food for you.
Okay.
So, you're just generating food and you're getting things from everywhere else. It's pretty nice.
All right. Matt with the hot tips for Wingspan. I guess now available now. You can consider it for a gift game or gift giving or something for you and your pals to play yourself. But Matt, until next time we visit the board game corner of the mistake zone and more hot tips. So Matt, speaking about things that are slightly old, I guess. Matt, when did Wingspan come out? Can you recall? Or
I don't remember. If I had to guess blindly, I'd say 2017.
Okay, Matt. That's a good number. I want to jump off on because for the next month we have it's a odd and interesting Fortnite season that typically with Fortnite, the Battle Royale specifically, their seasons last around 3 months. But for the entire month of November until December 3rd, we have Fortnite OG, which brings back the original Fortnite Chapter 1 map. And then throughout the next 4 weeks, every week we'll have one variation of that Chapter 1 map. With the loot pool of Chapter 1 as well. And a few, going back to our discussion with Tony Hawk, a few mechanics that were found in, modern day, quote unquote, Fortnite. There are a lot more zip lines just to help with mobility. There's mantling, sprinting, and of course, zero build.
I'm surprised mantling wasn't an original Fortnite thing.
Matt, original Fortnite back in 2017 was weird. And even here, I think there have been some complaints from the building crowd or at least the modern building crowd, just because I believe it's a bit slower, as your build speed is a bit slower compared to what modern Fortnite building
I
is
see.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those, I don't play build anymore, Matt. So this is just going back to zero build and how the realization of Matt,
Mm-hmm.
the chapter 1 map for Fortnite was not built with zero build in mind. There are a lot of big open spaces. There are a lot of hills and mountains that, Matt, if you're not positioned well enough and the circle's closing in and you have to walk around said mountain, you lose. You lose for sure.
Damn.
And it's one of those rose-tinted glasses things of, going back to, the weapons are slightly more inaccurate than they are now. The recoil is pretty bad for some of the, especially the common and uncommon weapons. Those weapon rarities, I mean. But at the same time, Matt, going through this chapter 1 map and kind of seeing all the different points of interest, seeing all these locations, sort of with updated graphics, since the change to Unreal 5 and just how the game looks overall. Matt, how do you feel about nostalgia for something from 2017? And where's your nostalgia limit at? How old does something have to be for you to go, hey, this brings me back?
Oh man. So Jared, before I get into answering your question, I just want to clear up that Wingspan thing. Wingspan was in 2019.
Oh, close, man.
Close. I was close.
Kind of close.
I was close. But Jared, I think my nostalgia goggles start a lot earlier.
Right.
I think if we're just talking video game console wise, my nostalgia goggles start at the GameCube.
Okay.
I think.
Right. Fair enough.
But
so say I mentioned Custom Robo. That hits the nostalgia.
Jen.
Yeah.
I was building a Gundam this week and I just so badly wanted to play Custom Robo.
All right. But something 5 years or so isn't necessarily tickling that fancy.
No, 5 years ago doesn't really tickle that 5 years ago is basically... That's basically a new game. That's still like... Which is weird because I know that there's probably games from 5 years ago that are getting remastered right now.
Yeah, I think nostalgia, especially to our generation, us old-ass millennials, where... I feel like nostalgia baiting has been something that we've seen for the last, decade or so.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it really depends on your generation. I think one of the discussions I've been having a lot lately is the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, where I'm talking to a lot of boomers. We're boomers now, Matt. And people not realizing, why is Five Nights at Freddy's always sold out when we're checking out movie times or whatever? And it's me explaining, no, Five Nights is big to a lot of children who are now in a position where they have the disposable income to go see a PG-13 movie based on a franchise that they essentially grew up with. That's nostalgia to them. And I think it's the same thing with this Fortnite OG season of, hey, this is where for the most part, a lot of kids in that, period of their lives when they're developing their tastes experience Fortnite as a free-to-play game. And now they're 5 years later, they might be, someone who was in the 8th grade or just entering high school is now kind of in college or whatever, where they can say, oh yeah, I remember all these times back when I was a kid. And like, likewise for me, an old ass man, I remember this when I was not as old as I am now, but still slightly older. And I don't know. It's weird how we go back to these things and end up feeling that, tinge of nostalgia. Likewise of, I remember I was in this area when I won one of my first Fortnite games by myself, or when something zany happened, and just seeing this location again makes me feel, okay, that's cool. I won on the Switch where, Matt, when I first played on the Switch, Fortnite was running decently well. And now we're doing 5 years later, and Fortnite isn't. Maybe it's the memory, the nostalgia goggles again, but it's not running as well as it did 5 years ago. That's a beefy game. But yeah, if it's also odd that it's just lasting a month long because, so this was the end of essentially their chapter 4, and I think all speculation is that once Fortnite OG ends, we're gonna go into chapter 5. And Matt, I think this is where the rumor mill is really going off, just because there have been a lot of leaks, a lot of discussions, a lot of things that have been in the files that players have been data mined with every updates, but nothing specifically announced. And the reason why I wanted to bring up Fortnite, and especially going into what chapter 5 is and why it's interesting that they went with an OG season for 1 month celebrating the first chapter, is I think the running theory, especially on that, here's another segment I love of the Mistake Zone, me regurgitating information I found on Reddit, is that this is the last hurrah, the last celebration of Fortnite as we know, because with chapter 5, this is where Matt, remember when Epic was throwing around the phrase metaverse?
Yes.
And, they had all these resources dedicated to metaverse. They ended up, buying Harmonix for a lot of events. And even though we have Harmonix under their belt, we haven't necessarily seen a lot of full-fledged concerts like, we did with Ariana Grande, per se. But the reason I bring up this idea of the metaverse is that for the longest time, there have been, data mines pointing to a first-person mode, a racing mode that has ties to Rocket League. There's data mines for the Lego collab, which, according to the leaker HypeX on Twitter, Fortnite are working on porting Fall Guys Beans from minigame, and they're also working on a Lego mode where you play as Lego characters and build shareable worlds that have enemies, towns, combat, Lego llamas, ship cannons, music, and more. Where
Fortnite's wild.
Yeah, when you hear, and then of course you think of all the games under the Epic umbrella, as you said. As I said, we have Rocket League now, Fall Guys, this Lego collab, and it's this I guess notion or this thought amongst the community right now of whoever's following these leaks of, wow, they're really going to change what Fortnite is in this next chapter. And we've seen it a lot right now with the Unreal creator, with everyone doing their Fortnite creations and whatnot, and kind of building upon that. And it's weird that, to me at least, that Fortnite seems to be becoming more and more this platform rather than, hey, this is just this dinky battle royale game that came from this PvE building tower defense game from way back when. And as an outsider looking in, when I say this is most likely how their Epic Games is trying to tackle the metaverse in theory, does that do anything to you as someone who doesn't really have any attachment to the Fortnite franchise?
You know what, Jaren? I never really thought about Fortnite being the metaverse.
Yeah.
But, Jaren, the more I think about that, the more it really reminds me of the kind of world style that was in Ready Player One.
Really?
Yeah, because like you mentioned, hey, racing. One of the big things in one of the big set piece moments in Ready Player One was like racing.
Right.
Essentially, all of Ready Player One is just a big ass battle royale. Like once you get into, I guess, VR stuff, Jaren, I think Fortnite is. I mean, Fortnite's already like huge, whatever. But I think Fortnite is even gonna take off even more than what they were before. I think Fortnite is gonna become what Mark Zuckerberg wanted like their metaverse to be.
Right.
Oh man, Jared, Fortnite's wild. I can't believe that now. I earnestly believe that Fortnite is gonna be like the future kind of platform for everything.
Matt, with Harmonix being under Epic, do you have to expect a rhythm game of some sort at one point, depending on how this platform hijinks works. And I know this was a discussion we had before where when you think of what Fortnite is as a platform, just with all the different collaborations it has, but essentially at the end of the day, they're skins, they're action figures for you, as opposed to what we see in Smash, where they're kind of fully developed. And the most we have in Fortnite is, oh, here's like a lightsaber weapon for when you have a Star Wars collab, or here's the Spider-Man gloves that let you swing around. But at the end of the day, it's just a big toy box for you. And I'm really interested to see where the speculation ends up going. How the racing mode ends up, how their first person shooter or first person mode ends up, and then how, their hooks into Rocket League and Fall Guys and all this Lego stuff. I think it's one of those things that I'm really curious just to see how it's executed, but at the same time, how it's received, and if this is their attempt at, the metaverse. And I even feel like that has already come and gone in terms of what the, popular tech thing is, what the future tech is right now. But yeah, I think it's really execution that I'm really curious to see, and if it will land. And Matt, full circle to tie it all together, if it will run on the Switch. Because that, it's already pretty rough on playing Fortnite on the Switch.
Yeah.
Matt, one of the favorite things that my partner and I have done playing Fortnite is we would play beside each other on our monitor. Like, since I have a dual monitor set up, when we play Fortnite, she would be connected to the other. We'd put her Switch to the other monitor. And on one monitor, it's me playing on the PC. And on the other monitor, it's her playing on the Switch. And Matt, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. And it's really apparent when you're dropping in, where I'm in the lobby, it's counting down when the game would start.
Yeah.
And she only enters the game when we're on the battle bus. And when we jump off, and just seeing how, like, the geometry, the textures, and how different and like it is, Matt. If you're telling me Fortnite becomes a platform with racing, Rocket League stuff, Fall Guys, Lego, Matt. One, I wonder if it's one of those things of, hey, do you want to install this? Do you want to install this? Do you want to install this? Or do you want the pure battle royale? And two, I think at some point they have to stop supporting the Switch, and at some point they have to stop supporting, the 360. Not the 360, the Xbox One, and the PS4. And I think when that day comes, that's going to be wild as well. Unless they go through, and then, yeah, it's still available. It's not available on the iOS devices, of course, but eventually you would think, Matt, as someone who doesn't understand tech, eventually you think they would have to start phasing out the older consoles, right? If speculation is to be believed.
Oh yeah, I fully believe that they'll phase out old consoles. I'm actually surprised. I, for some reason, thought Fortnite was on mobile devices already.
Well, no, it is on mobile devices, but the iOS stuff with the trying to get a better split with Apple, okay, and like the lawsuits and all that. But Matt, that was my Fortnite corner. Fortnite OG, weird nostalgia for something 5 years ago. But more curious is where it goes afterwards. Once we're done this Chapter 1 celebration, what Fortnite looks like next month. And Matt, the corner will return next month as well. But until then, here's to dreaming how much. Matt, do you think we'll get a Ready Player One crossover into Fortnite?
I kind of hope there is now, just because of like everything you've said so far. I really, really want a Ready Player One crossover. But now that I'm saying these words with my mouth, I don't know what a Ready Player One crossover would be. Because Ready Player One is already just crossovers of other dumb stuff into it.
Oh, man. Matt, fun fact. There was a Wreck-It Ralph collab with Fortnite, which was very, very small.
Oh, wait, what did they...
It was just a emote, and they played the trailer in Risky Reels at one point.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jaren, I guess while we're on this kind of nostalgic train,
right?
BlizzCon happened this weekend.
Oh, you mean Microsoft's BlizzCon?
Yes, Microsoft's BlizzCon happened this weekend, and there was actually a very kind of, to me, surprising announcement. Even though I honestly do not, really touch this game at all.
Yeah.
I am legitimately surprised that WoW Classic is going to Cataclysm and not staying in Wrath of the Lich King.
That's Matt wasn't well, maybe it's bad for me just because my attachment to quote unquote classic WoW really does end in Cataclysm.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of your, I guess, surprise or you being surprised, what about Cataclysm kind of caught you off guard?
I think it's that, to me, Cataclysm is the start of kind of like when people started wanting to like go back
Right.
to how it was.
Right.
And I always just assumed for some reason that WoW Classic was going to stop at Wrath of the Lich King.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, when I'm looking up WoW private servers, they all, when they're advertising themselves as classic WoW, they are usually saying that they're a Wrath of the Lich King server.
Right.
Which is like I said, why I was surprised that they're going to WoW, or they're going to Cataclysm. And now I'm interested in seeing what happens when WoW Classic, gets closer to retail WoW,
Right.
in terms of where they are in their I guess like release cycle.
Because you would have to think they would have to stop eventually at least. And
See, that's where I'm kind of confused now. Because Jaren, now I'm wondering if they do WoW, like new WoW Classic again, or two, and they just have like, I don't know, 3 versions of WoW going at once.
Man, do you think something like that would, well, it's really hard for me to say, really, just because when I think about juggling previous seasons,
Mm-hmm.
I think about something, speaking about Blizzard, something like Hearthstone, and them, rotating different expansions, or here's your wild mode, here's your standard, here's classic Hearthstone.
Is there classic Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That, is like, I think the first expansion only, and which I wanted to play, and then I kind of dropped off really hard there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think something like that work, where they're just saying, hey, now here's a season that only focuses on Lich King. Here's a season that focuses on Cataclysm. Here's a season that focuses on OG WoW. But at the same time, that doesn't actually make sense unless you do something like what they do in Diablo with your seasonal character or whatever. But again, and then that's so different from an MMO where you have that personal attachment to it, where you have that roleplay attachment compared to what you do in Diablo, where now that you mention it, I really am curious to see where they go and where they quote unquote stop, and how many versions can they really do. Just because when the original WoW Classic was announced, and then they said, oh, here's Burning Crusade, that's when the question starts of, oh, where do we stop? And now that we're at Cataclysm, we're here again. Where do we stop? And I don't know, Matt, with WoW Classic, or you know what, just MMOs in general, now that we're talking about us in 2023, does the thought of playing an MMO appeal to you today?
It appeals to me, Jaren, but then when I get into the practice of actually doing it, it doesn't.
Right.
Full behind the scenes here, Jaren. Like about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we didn't really have anything to talk about in terms of games. Like we were really kind of like scraping there. And I thought,
what are you talking about? I loved me some Tony Hawk 1 and 2. That was definitely not a filler episode.
But Jaren, I actually installed Final Fantasy 14.
Right.
I started playing. I was really, really trying to get myself into it, Jared, but within the same day of me playing, I stopped.
It's just, it doesn't fit our lifestyle right now. I know it fits others' lifestyle.
Yeah.
But not ours in particular, which is fair. But yeah, Matt, WoW Classic, getting Cataclysm. Matt, when I think about yesteryear, however, with our time on private server Wrath of the Lich King, Matt, those were good times.
Those are good times.
And I think also it's one of those, if I were to go back to WoW today, of course I'd have my character from, what was it, Burning Crusade, I think? And going back to that character and realizing, oh, all I'd be doing is just old expansion content that I can solo by myself just because, I'm over leveled at this point. And me trying to get different transmogs that probably don't look cool in the grand scheme of things. And when I think about how if I were to go back to WoW, all I would be doing is not the actual MMO stuff you would do, joining a guild, going on raids. It's how can I play dress up? And that bitter feeling of, oh, if I really want to play dress up, I need to actually engage in this game and its community to get the best stuff. And I'd probably be like, no thanks and nope out. But man, I'm going to be honest. When my friend told me that BlizzCon was this weekend, I was really surprised and really caught off guard. But let's continue going through it. Matt, WoW Classic out of the way. Cataclysm, cool. What else caught your attention for BlizzCon this year?
Jaren, one thing that caught my attention that kind of really grossed me out was that okay, this isn't the part that grossed me out. Diablo is getting a tabletop RPG.
Okay.
They announced that it's getting one. I think that's like really interesting. I've always kind of liked Diablo's kind of lore. And I think having a tabletop RPG to play, within the space is very interesting. The thing that kind of grossed me out, Jaren, is that they're launching it on Kickstarter. And something about that just feels really gross to me. Like, there are so many tabletop RPGs that launch on Kickstarter, but the fact that it's, Microsoft's Blizzard that's doing this seems really skeezy to me, even though, like, I don't really think that, like, there's too, like, I don't really know how to put it into words, but I don't know. Yeah, Jaren, it just feels really skeezy to me.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's optics at this point. I know we were barely touching, we were potentially going to discuss it, but that kind of reminds me of what's going on right now with, the Modern Warfare 3 ads. And, you're getting these full screen ads when, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but when you boot up your Xbox, you'll get this Modern Warfare 3 ad before you get kicked to your home screen. And again, and all these things, it's all marketing, same with, this BlizzCon announcement, hey, we're going to go on Kickstarter. But it's the fact that it comes so soon after the biggest, company acquisition in history for all intents and purposes, when $69 billion is spent to acquire, Activision Blizzard King. Nice. And then right after it's, hey, we're going to Kickstart. We need you guys to Kickstarter our Diablo game. Or, hey, you're starting up your Xbox? Look, Modern Warfare 3. Again, these have been probably in the works. These were discussed way before the merger, way before the acquisition. But at the same time, all this comes right after that. It's just not a good look, and it's not a feel-good look, as you said, where even if one doesn't have to necessarily do with the other, you can't help but think, I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Where, again, when we go back to Kickstarter, and I'm asking you, hey, Matt, how's the board game landscape looking on Kickstarter right now? Every time I've asked you that, you said, it's still being used more or less as a pre-order system.
Yeah.
Where, everything's kind of fully fleshed out. You're really just pre-ordering the product itself, getting your physical option. And then, again, when Microsoft's Blizzard says, hey, let's kickstart our tabletop game, the optics aren't there, Matt. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make me feel good at all. And I probably won't feel good unless things change when I start up my Xbox when I get home and see a Modern Warfare 3 ad. Matt, if I'm subscribed, I still subscribe to, if I'm subscribed to your Game Pass Ultimate, if I'm subscribed to your online service, don't show me ads. Don't show me ads on the home screen.
Yeah.
Especially don't show me ads when I start up my console. Maybe when I go into the store, fine, but not when I'm trying just to get to my games. But that's just me, Matt. That's just me, and I know things won't change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Matt, speaking about Diablo, I know every time speaking about starting up my Xbox, I'll go to my recently played, and over there, there's a new icon for a new Diablo 4 season. Matt, what's up with Diablo?
Diablo, during BlizzCon, got the announcement for its first expansion, which is coming out, I think they said late 2024. And, Jaren, it's weird to me that they're announcing an expansion already. I don't even think it's been 6 months since Diablo 4 released.
And wait, late 2024, that's next year, essentially.
Yeah.
That's like 1 year at least from now. That's next BlizzCon that they're showing this off. Okay.
And I don't know, it's like it has the usual stuff, like, more items, new area, more story.
I'm assuming some classes.
Yeah, they added one new class, which is a new class that's never been in any of the other Diablos, which is like called the Spiritfarer, which is like a spear-based class, I think they said.
Okay.
And that's also weird to me too, Jaren, because it seems so weird to me to have a Diablo game that doesn't have a holy class in it.
Right.
But I don't know, like that's not really like anything I think that's like too worth like going into, because it's all really just speculation on what it's going to be right now.
So far off too, yeah.
But I don't know, for me it seems weird that they've already announced it so close to the release of Diablo 4.
Right.
Like, I know that Diablo 4 is kind of in a rough place right now, but seeing them announce an expansion this early makes me feel like it's maybe in a worse place than I initially thought.
I was going to do a check-in, Matt. Have they announced anything for a new season or kind of new content?
They announced a new season. I think it's called like Season of Hatred or something. Right. I don't really know what the new mechanics are going to be, but I don't know. Yeah. Like Jaren, I'm so far out of Diablo 4 now that like I'll take a look every so often and people saying, oh yeah, it's good, but it's not great.
Right.
And until it gets there, I don't think I'm going to go back in.
Fair enough, Matt. Matt, speaking about games that we're not going back in, Matt, before we bring up Overwatch or probably Overwatch or Hearthstone or whatever, Matt, in my sick and twisted brain, I know that last week or 2 weeks ago, Heroes of the Storm got an actual update, some balance changes, some other stuff. And Matt, I still subscribe to I still follow the Heroes of the Storm, the hot subreddit. And Matt, hopium on high.
Oh, man.
Leading up to BlizzCon. Matt, that Microsoft purchase went through. It's, hey, they're going to bring it back. There's an actual update. Matt, BlizzCon's going to come here. It's coming back, Matt. It's coming back. It's coming to Game Pass. Matt, did Heroes of the Storm come back during BlizzCon?
Jaren, I did not see a single thing about Heroes of the Storm.
Matt, when hopium turns into copium, it feels great, Matt. It feels great.
Not if you're the one huffing the hopium to begin with.
Matt, tell me about the K-pop group that Overwatch is collabing with.
Oh, I think they were collabing with Le Sserafim. Jaren, I honestly don't know too much about Le Sserafim.
Yeah. I
saw that music video and it threw me off because I don't know, something about seeing the Overwatch characters kind of soft modeled also towards the K-pop group members really threw me off.
Right.
And their designs were like, oh, this is weird. This is like alternate universe. What do you call it? Overwatch.
Yeah.
It seems okay. I don't know. They're driving very dangerously in that music video, and that bothered me.
Not great, Matt. Not great because speaking about TikTok algos, being served a lot of car accidents, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Not even driving here. There's a lot of people just stalled in the side of the road
Oh,
on like
man.
the main street that I used to get here. Not great. Not
Uh-huh.
great.
Oh, that's surprising.
Matt,
Uh
speaking about K-pop collabs,
huh.
what did you think of that New Jeans League of Legends song?
It sounds like a League of Legends song,
Yep.
Jared. Like if you told me that, like, I don't know, they just redid all the members of Imagine Dragons, it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure, that makes sense.
Matt,
Uh-huh.
is KDA dead?
You really hope not. Like I enjoyed seeing KDA. I hope they're not dead. Like I even they made another like music group within the League of Legends universe,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what they're called right now, but I hope they bring back their music, their in-world music performance groups.
Yeah, I'm only here for KDA, Matt. That's why I was really sad that the song the New Jeans song in question wasn't branded a KDA song, but
Uh-huh.
it's your typical League of Legends hype up song, which is fine for me.
Mm-hmm.
But K-pop collabs aside, anything else coming to new hero in Overwatch? Correct, Matt?
Yes, there's a new hero in Overwatch, which is basically the dude from what's the movie where The Rock is in the Moana movie?
Yeah,
It's basically that guy, but with 2 chain guns.
great, Matt. I'm actually there's no chain gun character in Overwatch. No, there isn't, right?
Or no minigun character, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, I don't
I mean, the
believe
closest
so.
thing is like just Bastion,
Yeah.
but like that's not really exactly
Yeah.
the same.
Matt, Overwatch is so. It's really funny that we're doing a BlizzCon segment just because, again, going back to the nostalgia point, there was a time, Matt, where if we used to play that or not really mind game, but that thought experiment of, hey, if there was maybe we can save this for a show, but if there was any publisher, if you can only play games from one publisher moving forward, who would that publisher be? Or if you could only play games that started with a certain letter, what letter would that be?
Yeah.
But going back to the publisher one or developer one, there was really a point in my life where Blizzard games would heavily be a consideration for me, just because at that time, I think during that heyday for me, that was HOTS, that was Hearthstone, that was Overwatch. I think it was still D3, and I was still subscribed to WoW at that point. And I was at a point of my life where everything is firing on all cylinders. This is all hitting for me, and that's fine. But kind of, our running theme of not only this episode, but kind of our lives in general, of different point in my life where, again, I was really surprised that BlizzCon came here and went. And, glancing through everything that was announced, nothing really kind of stood out to me, just because I'm not in that ecosystem anymore.
Yeah.
Where even though it's fun going through all the BlizzCon news items, just because to me, Matt, this is my nostalgic trip down memory lane of in another world. I'm more hyped for all this stuff, but at the same time, it's we have a new Overwatch character. Wait, how many new Overwatch characters are there in general? Who was the last one I played and stuff like that? But yeah, Matt, in terms of the point of your life right now, I think we all know your answer, but I guess going through all these BlizzCon news items, is there anything that really stood out to you, no matter the game, that really made you say, hey, I'm going to go check this out? Or are you just still an outsider looking into something that, would have appealed to you yesterday, but not necessarily today?
Yeah, like I think there isn't really anything that Blizzard's putting out anymore that is really gonna, get me super excited. I really am just kind of looking at BlizzCon from the lens of just basically Reddit and Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Jaren, like it's just looking rough. Jaren, I don't know if you saw this. I can't actually remember where I saw it. It was on Reddit or Twitter, but someone had posted a kind of like video of the new Warcraft game, the Warcraft Rumble game.
Right.
Where it was like a screen that says, hey, are you enjoying this game? And it says like not really or yes. And he taps not really and the button doesn't work.
That's a good goof, Matt. That's a good goof.
Good goof.
But I think for me right now, I'm really curious to see what Blizzard looks like post Microsoft acquisition. And of course, this BlizzCon wouldn't have anything to that, shows the effects of that acquisition. But I'm now curious what, not only Blizzard, but just Microsoft's offering right now, how they look next year.
Yeah.
And 2 years from now when, all the paperwork has settled, and we actually see what this, acquisition has done for the parties involved. And likewise, I'm curious, okay, going back to Bethesda, Starfield was in development prior to Microsoft's acquisition, of course. And now I'm at that point of, okay, what does Bethesda's output look like post, like now under Microsoft, now with a game that fully, for the most part, started under their acquisition. And, we've discussed it before, Matt. They're not necessarily firing on all cylinders, like, in my opinion, in terms of said acquisition, just because, we're not talking about Redfall anymore. Something like Hi-Fi Rush or Penti, or what was that? That one game I liked last year.
Oh man, Pentacle?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. That fun, cool visual novel adventure game.
Right, yes.
But even though I enjoyed those games, it's not setting the world on fire. So I hate that every time we talk about Microsoft's acquisitions, it's okay, so now what? Like,
yeah,
I'm still waiting for that heavy hitter to come through and be like, okay, maybe, but yeah, I think that's where I'm currently at right now. And of course, we wouldn't see it in this BlizzCon, but I'm really curious to see what it looks like a year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
But Matt, any closing thoughts on BlizzCon 2023?
Not really, Jaren.
Okay.
It seems to me like for me personally, it was kind of like a boring BlizzCon.
Yeah, like I know there was also that news item about, hey, some WoW thing and having to pay $90 to access it or whatever. Matt, looks grim, and once again, optics don't look good after the acquisition. But Matt, there's always next year, I guess.
Jaren, there's always the year after next year.
Fair enough.
Actually, Jaren, I guess thinking about it, I think I need to go back on something I said earlier in the episode.
Okay.
Because I said that my nostalgia ends at the GameCube.
Right.
I actually think maybe, like, the Wii has snuck itself in there. Because, Jaren, this past week, I've been living in some nostalgia, and also, unfortunately, Jaren, living in real life. And I've been playing the new WarioWare game, WarioWare Move It.
Right.
Jaren, Smooth Moves was, I think, my favorite WarioWare game up until now.
Yes.
And I think that Move It is, if not like above it, it's right there in the same tier with it.
So Matt, would you say WarioWare Move It is smooth?
It is. The game itself is very smooth. Jaren, unfortunately, I am not.
Oh, Matt. Unfortunately, you're not the same age as you did when you played Smooth Moves. But as a, once again, boomer millennial, how is WarioWare Move It in 2023?
Jaren, the biggest knock I have right now against WarioWare Move It is that it has unskippable cutscenes. Fortunately, Jaren, the cutscenes are maybe like a minute and a half long, so they're not bad.
Right.
And Jaren, for me, the cutscenes are hitting that like kind of like nice point of, this is so dumb, this is so corny, but I'm really, really into this.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, Jaren, Move It's a really good game. If you liked smooth moves, you're gonna like Move It.
Matt. As someone who hasn't played Move It yet, but has watched other people play Move It.
Yes.
From your perspective, how's the Joy-Con incorporation for these micro games?
I think the Joy-Con integration in these micro games is really, really good. of course, there is like some jank, and I don't even want to call it jank just yet because I guess like okay, I guess just taking a step back real quick, Jaren, the Joy-Con integration in this game was like I think like really fun. Like it works exactly like Smooth Moves did, where it's using a lot, mostly the motion controls, but
Right.
there is some kind of like button pressing that's involved on some of them. But yeah, I don't want to say this early that it's jank. I think that for me, some of the micro games are maybe just like hard because they're micro games. You have like a second to understand what's happening, and then like 2 seconds later the game is gone. But Jen, the poses are all actually like very fun. There are like a lot of samurai ones where like you're holding your hands in front of you like a sword. You have your hands to your side like you're a choo choo train. You have your hands like kind of out to the side like you're a bird. Jaren, that one is very tiring to do.
Of course.
Because Jaren, within the story mode, the way it works is that at least at the start, they're introducing you to a lot of different like poses within the game. So within like the first world, you're only gonna do the choo choo train pose. And then within the next world, you're only going to do the knight pose and like the massage pose. And Jaren, the one that I just mentioned, the one where you kind of have your hands out and kind of just like just like straight out to your sides, it's called the scales. When I was doing the mechanisms for that one, Jaren, I did not that is when I started to feel my old man body.
Oh no, Matt.
Of just having your arms out to your side, and since every other game is using that pose, it really strained my arms.
Matt.
Uh-huh.
Nothing like seeing your own mortality in a fun micro game collection. But speaking about the presentation, Matt, are all our friends here? Is Ashley here? Is Kat and Anna?
Oh, Ashley's here. Yep, Jaren, they're all here. Jaren,
Mona.
The story of this game, Jaren, is that Wario went out. He like bought a 100 raffle like tickets to try to win something, and ended up winning a trip for him and 20 of his friends to a resort.
Classic. Love that.
Yep, and
I love when that happens.
That's why everybody's there.
Okay.
But Jaren, I kind of want to talk about some of the really kind of interesting poses within this game.
Okay.
I guess the first one actually isn't interesting. It's just highlighting how old I am. Jaren, one of the poses is just squatting.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Jaren, my knees feel like garbage. And it wouldn't be so bad if like you were only holding that position, but a lot of the squat ones involve you kind of like either doing a lot of leg lifting or legitimate jumping within the micro game, and having the panic and then the quick movement really messed me up. But the kind of mechanics that I was interested in really going into with you, Jaren, is actually a quick step back. One of the things that really surprised me about this game is that it basically requires the things that slide onto the Joy-Cons that have the extended bumpers on them.
Yeah.
You basically need that because you need the straps for this game.
I mean, Matt, you can't have your Joy-Cons fling at your television screen.
Of course. Safety first. But I was actually really surprised to see that I needed them.
Okay.
Jaren, I'm a bit. I thought, I have good motor control. I don't need them. But there's a couple of poses that are very interesting about them. One of them is, I guess not a pose in general, but there is kind of like a sub pose. I don't really know how to say this, where they'll show you the pose that you have to do, and then there's a quick thing that flashes like, hey, this next micro game, you'll need to press buttons. An interesting one is like, oh, you have to press buttons like it's your Joy-Cons are leaking. You have to press all the buttons that are leaking on screen so that you don't let the water out. But the interesting one for me is like the drop, like the dropping games. Like one of the poses is called like gift giver, where you kind of just have your Joy-Cons out on your palms.
Yeah.
And then they show, hey, you're going to have to drop your Joy-Cons on this one. And the micro game there is you have 2 ingredients in your hand. You have to dump the correct one into the pot. And it like triggers that by you like letting go of the thing. I thought that was like a really interesting, I guess, like way for them to incorporate the game.
Yeah. And in terms of interesting ways that they're using the Joy-Con
Mhm.
specifically. Are there anything else that really stood out to you or surprised you that they actually explored?
Yeah, one of the other poses that they do is called the hand model, where you have to use the IR camera on the right Joy-Con to play this game, and I fully forgot that thing existed.
Me too. I was like, wait, there's a camera there?
Yeah, so there's a camera on the right Joy-Con at the bottom,
Right.
where basically the pose is like you let go of your left Joy-Con, so it's just dangling on your wrist. You hold your right Joy-Con in your left hand, and you point the camera at your right hand. And you're doing a lot of kind of like interesting stuff in this game. Like the two that I guess like the best examples of what you're doing in this game is one's like a like finger counting game where you have to like pose with a 1 on your hand and pose with like a 4 on your hand.
Matt,
Uh-huh.
sounds like a Black Mirror episode.
Jaren, it was wild when I realized what you were supposed to do in that micro game. And the other one for me that I really liked is like, hey, don't let these things escape from the bottle, or like only leave 2 of these in the bottle,
Right.
and you just have to like bring it to like your hand to the Joy-Con and just cover the whole camera.
Wow.
And I thought that was like a very interesting game.
Does it do anything with the HD rumble or?
I personally haven't run into any games with that yet.
Mm-hmm.
I would doubt it though, Jaren.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think you have enough time to use the
Right.
HD rumble as a micro game.
Okay.
I don't know. I do like the way that they incorporate like a lot of the stuff. Like I don't know, just having like they actually have, I think it's like 28 different poses.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow.
I think that's like a very generous amount. No, wait, it might not be that many. Jaren, I don't know how to do math.
Okay.
6
It's okay.
times 3, 18. Sorry, 18.
Right. Close,
18
Matt.
poses.
Close.
But I don't know. I think that's like enough variation across all their micro games that it's very interesting to me.
Especially, I'm assuming, especially when it starts mixing up all the different poses as well. Where,
Oh yeah.
as you said, when you first start the game, it's hey, all these will be this one pose. But from what I've seen, when you do get to hey, we're going to incorporate a handful of poses within this set of micro games, I think that gets. It appears to be pretty hectic, Matt. How hectic is it?
It's pretty hectic. At some points, I am just in the wrong pose, or I got the pose wrong.
Yeah.
And you're at that point, you're just like frantically wailing your hands around trying to get the correct thing.
Yeah.
I think the ones that really catch me off guard is when I get to a new game and I don't understand how to make it work. Like one of them was the hand model one, and you're supposed to like, I don't know, swing or something. And I didn't realize that I was supposed to let go of the controller so that the dude on screen like swings like he's a trapeze artist. And I thought that one was like pretty wild.
Pretty cool.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
But Matt,
Mhm.
I think with the Warioware games, the biggest, not necessarily question that always comes to mind, but one that I always end up seeing from people is how's the value proposition? Just because, again, you do have, dozens of micro games, but again, we have to stress the word micro in them, where
Mhm.
how much replayability do you think you can see in Move It?
I personally don't think that I have too much replayability in Move It. I can see myself kind of like reaching the end of the game's story mode, playing the, I guess like full version, kind of like mixing in all the poses for a while. But after that, I don't really see too much play in it. I honestly do really see this more as a party buy.
Right.
More so like, oh yeah, like there's like people here like, oh yeah, let's play some Warioware. Like it's a really easy thing to get into. It's very kind of like simple. It has that nice hecticness to it that really, is like exciting, but when you mess up, it doesn't feel too bad.
Right.
Like I think that's really where I want and like Warioware games living.
Okay, fair enough. But Matt, every time we mention WarioWare, I always have to ask, when you hear the title WarioWare, what's the one micro game that instantly comes to mind or first comes to mind?
I honestly always think of the one where you have to like tweezer a nose hair out of a dude's nose.
Really?
Uh-huh.
When I think of WarioWare, I always think of picking your nose.
Oh, I mean, they're both nose.
Yeah, they're both nose. Warioware is, will always be connected to a nose. But yeah, man. So you're enjoying your time with WarioWare, but at the same time with Move It, but at the same time, you're seeing your kind of play experience come to an end relatively soon. I'm guessing. Any final thoughts on WarioWare or anything else that really surprised you playing through it?
I don't know. I'm really having fun with WarioWare. I do, like I said earlier, think that there's like a limit to the amount of fun there, but it is right now an enjoyable experience for me, and for me, it is worth it. I was actually surprised that this isn't a $79 game.
Yeah.
Like all the other first party games. It is only just a $69 or $60 something game, to the point where I was like, oh, that's surprising. And it made me hesitant to spend my Nintendo voucher on it, because I thought, I'm losing like $10 of value here. Right. But I don't know, I spent it on it anyway, Jaren. Maybe I'll buy a second set of vouchers and get Mario.
Matt. Oh, is Mario one of the voucher games?
Yeah, Super Mario Wonder is voucherable.
Oh, maybe I should do that, because I was saving mine. I was going to buy Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with it.
Jared, you're never going to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh, isn't RPG soon as well?
I think it's out. It's also what do you call it?
A voucher game?
Yeah, voucherable.
Oh, maybe I'll just do Super Mario RPG then. Give me something to play instead of going back to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Matt. But WarioWare Move It, now available. You can use your Nintendo voucher on it.
Yeah. Jaren, honestly, I don't know what it is about this game. Maybe it's just the art style, but it's really also making me really, really get that itch for a Rhythm Heaven game.
And every time someone says Rhythm Heaven, I'm legally obligated to say, Matt, where's the Elite Beat Agents sequel? Maybe for the Switch too, Matt. Maybe.
Oh man, dude, Elite Beat Agents would actually be wild if they made it kind of play like what was the game? What's the Ubisoft dancing game?
Just Dance?
Yes, Just Dance. Oh man.
Maybe, Matt. Maybe one of these days. No, they're not going to.
They're not. Leaping Agents is dead, Jaren, and that makes me really sad.
There's always our hopium. There's always our hopium, and there's always that. This has. I was going to say there's always going to be a mistake zone. Matt, we'll always have our own mistake zones. But this was the mistake zone for this week. And of course, Matt, I want to thank you, as always, for joining me this week. And of course, editing this podcast of ours.
Yo, Jaren, I want to thank you for hosting the show and, coming down to the Saturday Morning Arcade Clubhouse.
Thanks, man. I want to thank Birds. I want to thank Sylvanas. I want to thank Long Movies. I want to thank Popcorn.
Oh, man, Jaren, I had popcorn yesterday, but like earlier that day, I had some chicken tikka masala, and I put the popcorn in the bowl that had some chicken tikka masala sauce. Oh.
Damn, Matt.
So good.
So good, Matt. I want to thank Popcorn Mix-Ins. Hey, man, you can mix in anything with the popcorn if you really tried. I want to thank G-Idol, I guess. Did they break up?
Me? I don't know.
I
can't remember if they're one of those groups, yeah.
And I want to thank Wario, Kat, Anna, Mona, Ashley, 9 Volts. Those are all the WarioWare characters I know, Matt.
It's more than me.
Off the top of my head. But Matt?
Jaren?
Yes.
Jaren, I have people I don't want to thank.
Okay.
Jaren, I don't want to thank those people who, when people say, hey, I wish Elite Beat Agents was still around, that they say, hey, go play Osu. Osu's not the same game.
Nope, it's not the same.
Osu is
not the same.
Yeah. Osu is like the same game as like, I don't know. That's like saying like, oh yeah, DDR is the same as Persona Dancing All Night. Like they're both rhythm games, but like, yo, come on, get out of here.
Matt, if I wanted to play a rhythm game, I could play. I have access to so many rhythm games. But if I want to play Elite Beat Agents, Matt,
there's only Elite Beat Agents.
There's only Elite Beat Agents. And there's only the Mistake Zone. And Matt, please take it away.
This is the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of Elite Beat Agents.
Matt, I'm pretty sure you used that before, but it always applies.